Yo, what is going on YouTube? It's your boy John, aka Speros. In today's video, there's going to be gameplay going on in the background, absolute banger gameplay on Caldera, but also the main point of this video is to discuss the information that was just disclosed to me. I'm sure a lot of your other favorite creators were also involved in this briefing. But basically, Call of Duty reached out and offered to go ahead and kind of have a Q&A/briefing on Season 2, where Warzone is at and where Warzone is going. So we're going to be covering a lot of stuff in this video. I have notes on my screen over here. We're basically going to be going over Season 2 changes because there are a ton of Season 2 changes. We got a sneak peek at Season 2.5, which I'd assume is going to be when it gets the Season 2 Reloaded update. We have some information on that. We have information on how the dev teams work. We also got confirmation on what the next Call of Duty is going to be, how it's all going to work, how everything's going down. So if you guys are interested in that, make sure to stick around through the video. The last but most important thing is that they talked about FOV, answered all the questions that we had about it, and I will have an answer for you guys if it's coming to console or not. Anyway, before we get into all of that, if you guys haven't already dropped a like, I'd very much appreciate that. Subscribe if you guys are brand new around here. But without further ado, guys, let's get right into the information. The briefing started off with Patrick Kelly kind of opening it up and explaining kind of what's all going on and discussing stuff. Patrick Kelly, for those of you who don't know, is an IW studio head. He's kind of like the big boss, and he's the one that kind of coordinates everything. So initially, Warzone was actually meant to just accompany Modern Warfare 2019, but because of the wild success that they had, they went ahead and kept it going, kind of incorporating new games into it. He started off the briefing by explaining how he's not really enthralled with how things are going with Warzone in its current state. Obviously, he, along with everybody else that was there, knows about Warzone's current state and not being that great. And he had reassured us that he's aware of the numerous issues. We went into detail with a bunch of different stuff, and he's aware of all of the issues and that they are very, very serious about fixing them, which is always good news. Along with that, he kicked it off with telling us what the new Call of Duty for the year 2022, which is going to be an MW 2019 sequel. So it's like MW2, but it's not the MW2 that we know. So I'm really, really excited with that. And with that, we have a lot of information regarding it, specifically when it comes to Warzone, the engine, and the future of Call of Duty as a whole, because Warzone has most definitely completely changed the trajectory of everything Call of Duty related for pretty much until it is completely gone, which I don't know if it ever will be at this point. So he told us that the new game, like I said, is going to be MW2, and with that, they're coming out with Warzone 2, which is going to be super sick. They are developing this game along with Warzone 2 on a brand new engine, which he also added is going to be used across all future Call of Duty titles, which is going to be very interesting considering pretty much every year we are playing on a different / newer engine, because Treyarch has their own, Sledgehammer I think has their own, and then Infinity Ward has their own. But now from here on out, they are all going to be using one engine, which he reiterated that each game will still have its own kind of feel to it, and they're not all going to be, you know, just remakes of MW or whatever the engine it feels like. They're each going to have their own gun feel and TTK differences. Along with that, he could not speak too much on it. I think he may even overspoke a little bit, but he was teasing that there is some massively cool stuff in the works. His words exactly. He used an expletive in there, but I'm going to go ahead and censor it out. But there's massively cool stuff in the works, and it was an open discussion dialogue. So when he said that, I immediately asked, okay, so is this massively cool stuff going to be coming to Warzone or Warzone 2? Because Warzone 2 hypothetically is only a year out, or at this point, you know, like 8-9 months depending on when this game is released. And he said there is a lot of very cool stuff coming to Warzone, but there's also a lot of different and cool stuff coming with Warzone 2. And the way that he described it, outside of just saying some very cool stuff, he used the word disruptive. He said that there are disruptive things coming to Warzone and Warzone 2. And now people might be thinking, okay, what does that mean? Are there, you know, you can't really think in game. You got to think from a business perspective here. So when he says disruptive, it is not a negative thing. It is a good thing. So if you are in any industry, you want to be an industry disruptor. Warzone is a perfect example of that. It's an industry disruptor. Why is that? Because they are in the industry of battle royales, and they completely threw everything off kilter, threw everything out the window that everybody knew about BRs, created essentially a whole new genre of battle royales with your loadout, buy stations, stuff of that nature, and kind of disrupted the whole industry. So when he says that, I would assume it's going to be a very different experience from what we're having now, but it's going to be awesome and just absolutely phenomenal. He seemed really, really genuine and really, really excited about it. He's honestly probably the coolest dev that I've ever gotten to talk to, so that was pretty cool. The next massive thing with Modern Warfare 2 coming in 2022 and Warzone Warzone 2 is not that the game and Warzone are kind of made together with the new engine from the ground up, and their words exactly is a massive evolution of BR with all new playscape, which I would assume is a new map, and the new sandbox mode. So that is huge, because it sounds like we're getting kind of a Halo Forge mode for Warzone, possibly maybe even like a Fortnite creator mode, which could be absolutely phenomenal in terms of content, having fun, and kind of reviving Call of Duty a little bit, because my favorite memories is back in the day playing Michael Myers, all the other like little mini games that you could play on COD 4. That was my absolute favorite. So the new sandbox mode, I'm really excited about. Again, we didn't get confirmation if that's what the sandbox is going to be. They didn't speak too much on it, but based on the name and pretty much everything else, it sounds like it's going to be some sort of like Halo Forge or Fortnite creator mode. So I'm really excited about that. Getting into the season 2 stuff that they spoke on, basically we've been looking for a lot of quality of life stuff for Warzone for a while now, and season 2 is no exception. There's a ton of bugs in the game. So season 2, they are really focusing on traversal improvements. So this is increasing the mantle height and also collision fixes. So basically you're going to be able to mantle on things that are just, you know, slightly out of reach now, which is a good thing. I think getting up rock faces and such, I think is going to be amazing, because I think that's going to fix that a lot. And then collision fixes, I know everybody's run around the map, you run into something invisible, or you know, you get stuck on something or whatever. It should fix those things. So traversal improvements, absolute W in my book. Happy about that. The next thing, big thing, gets me killed all the time, sure gets you guys killed too, gas masks. Gas masks are getting reworked to where the animation will not mess up if you are ADS. So if you guys are ADS mid gunfight, your guy will not try to take the mask off or put the mask back on. This could be used and abused though. If you guys know you're about to run out of gas and it's not moving that fast, you can go ahead and ADS and then walk out of gas, and your gas mask will, you know, come off and on without interrupting you in too much. Obviously you got to ADS, but mid gunfight won't get you killed. Armor plates, this is a big one. Everybody has that, where, you know, you get shot, where you're down like a plate and a quarter. So your second plate only is missing a quarter out of it, and you put a new plate in, but it uses that plate to finish that quarter. That will no longer be a thing. It will now just go straight, put on one full plate. So you'll be able to essentially put on 50 HP right then and there, which is absolutely phenomenal. I'm happy they're doing that, because fixing, you know, that, you know, 25 HP little chip out of a plate has been super annoying. So that's a plate change that is coming. Another one is going to be the handling on the vehicles. They've realized the terrain is very difficult on Caldera, and Vanguard vehicles are just not that good pretty much at all. Patrick Kelly, which is the studio head that I was talking about earlier, he went ahead and explained that they put the box truck in the game, and they realized through playtesting that it was absolutely busted. So they went ahead and nerfed it, but then accidentally nerfed all the other vehicles in the same kind of foul swoop, if you will. So they are now going to be working on making the Vanguard vehicles better. With that being said, fighter planes are getting nerfed, which is phenomenal. They didn't go into any more detail on how they're getting nerfed. We could assume an aim assist nerf, possibly, you know, other nerfs. You know, there's a million different things that they could do, but I would assume the auto lock on aim assist and just the ease of use all around is going to receive some sort of balancing. Addition to the fighter planes, the gas cans will be nerfed as well, because my god, they are freaking nuts. 3 other very, very important changes coming in season 2 is we have huge restrictions in the Vanguard Royale mode. We are not going to be able to use stuns anymore, even on our custom classes, and dead silence will no longer appear on the map. In my book, that's an absolute W. The next one, it deals with parachuting. Anybody ever try to parachute in and you can't pull your chute because you're either too close to the ground, or, you know, you pull your chute but then you can't cut it because you're too close to the ground? Well, they're reworking this. Basically, it's being able to deploy your parachute at lower heights, so that's going to be very, very good. I could see this being a little bit interesting, especially if you're kind of dive bombing on somebody out of a helicopter, or, you know, off a high building or something. Like, you're going to be able to pull your chute pretty close to the ground. So animations in this game tend to be what lessen the skill gap, so this is going to be something that's a pretty much a big W for players of all skill level, because you're not going to get caught in that weird animation. And then the biggest change that I think is going to be happening in season 2 is going to be the final circle and circle adjustments in general. So season 2, they're really focusing on circle and trying to get people to other POIs. They're going to be having the circle, or the final circle, should I say, end less on peak. because they understand that it's really just not that fair. It's really just kind of a trash circle, to lack of a better word. It's just not a good circle. So they're changing it to where the circle is going to kind of not worry about the center map that much. And then in addition to that, another dev during the talk went ahead and said the circle will be less likely to pull to like a hillside. So they realized that being on the edge of zone, but like on the side of a hill, is way less than ideal and leaves you open to a lot of attack. So they're making it so that way that doesn't happen as much, which in my book, phenomenal. Specifically, if you are trying to, you know, hold people out, get in different gunfights, so on and so forth. Being on the hillside is just no fun for anyone. Along with Season 2, they gave us a little insight on Season 2.5, which is, I would assume, is going to be Season 2 Reloaded. They're going to introduce the ability to drop a gas mask, which I'm really excited about, and they're giving us the ability to pick up plates from satchels, or at least this is what they have planned. So I am super excited about that. I would like to note as well, they really put a lot of emphasis that this game is not only very large, there's a lot of game bloat because it is 3 games essentially converged into one game. You got Cold War, Modern Warfare 2019, and Vanguard. It's 3 games in one. And doing little changes like this is not as easy as it seems, because a lot of these different elements reach across different branches of code and different layers. So it's not as easy as like, okay, we could just go switch this setting, you know, turn the dial to the right and, you know, give people more aim assist, or turn it to the left, give people less. It doesn't work like that. If they want to make any changes pretty much to anything, it's pretty extensive and it's hard to troubleshoot, hard to find, and hard to get right, essentially. So that's part of the reason there are this many bugs inside of Warzone. Just a little side note. Getting into that again, talking about something else that they mentioned is that there are teams dedicated that are constantly working around the clock to try to get bug fixes out and things of that nature, and they are constantly listening. I know a lot of people think that Call of Duty is not listening, they're not perusing social media, they're not watching streams. That could not be anything further from the truth. They reiterated multiple times through this that they are watching pretty much a good portion of streamers, listening to what they're saying, kind of watching their experience, seeing what they can improve upon. Aside from that, they have a constant checking sentiment through social media. Obviously, Twitter is going to be a huge one, looking for things that not only are negative but also positive. So what people like, they're taking that into account, but also what people don't like, and they're passing that on to the dev team. They have a team completely dedicated to that. They're using all kinds of different metrics, data collection, and analytic methods behind the scenes to go ahead and try to get the most information so that they can provide us with the best kind of experience on Warzone. Aside from that, everybody's been waiting for the answer to this question about FOV for consoles. I have all of the information here. I'm going to be reading it off my sheet so that way I don't misquote anything or say anything that I shouldn't. Anyway, FOV for consoles, essentially what they said, or what the devs think, is that they're not going to go ahead and add FOV for consoles. The reason behind this is because last gen consoles simply cannot handle having an FOV slider, or for their words, they have no confidence that they can get consistent frame rate on last gen with an FOV slider. This is the main holdback or drawback, because the devs believe that the FOV slider contributes to the skill gap overall, and the last thing that they want to do is essentially give next gen consoles kind of an advantage over last gen, because a large population of players on Warzone are last gen. I know it seems a little bit crazy because, you know, PC has it but next gen doesn't, and this and that and another. Apparently the number of people playing on PC is like astronomically lower than it is like people playing on console. Obviously next gen, it is a smaller pool than last gen just because of the chip shortages and everything else that's going on in the world, but the main reason is that they don't want next gen to have an FOV and last gen not to, because they believe it will contribute more to toxicity than it will benefit the game all around, which is what it is. We obviously have no input. They seemed pretty adamant on that subject. I personally don't believe that FOV increases skill gap. I know everybody can disagree with that. That is perfectly fine. I think it's more on the side of experience, because for somebody of, you know, not to toot my own horn, but I'm a relatively high skilled player, high tier player, whatever you want to call it. I'm better than a normal casual person, but I'm obviously not as good as a pro. But I went back, played on console, and I had no problem dropping high kills. It wasn't until my game crashed, of course. That's a totally different topic. But FOV overall, I didn't notice like a drop in my skill level. I didn't notice that I didn't see somebody, or I didn't know where somebody was or anything, because, you know, your in-game sense is how you kind of figure all that stuff out. But I would like to say it was less enjoyable. So for my experience, lower FOV is just less enjoyable. I think that is kind of where it goes. I don't necessarily agree with the devs saying that it's going to increase the skill gap. I think it's more of an enjoyment factor, but obviously everybody has their own opinion, and I respect it. You know, do what you want. It's kind of how it goes. Anyway, the main reason, again, is that they're worried about the frame rate, specifically on last gen consoles. I'd assume there's some frame rate, you know, uncertainty with next gen. I'm sure they can handle it, but the main reason is they don't want any frame rate. They did mention that they played around with a couple of different ideas on possibly how to roll it out without affecting the frame rate too much, but they could not come to a solid conclusion other than it's probably just better not to add it. And then aside from that, I just want to give a big shout out to Call of Duty for, you know, doing this and having this open line of communication. It was in the email that they sent, they mentioned that it was going to be kind of like a dialogue situation. The briefing, it's going to be, you know, conversation. I've attended some other dev briefings for some other games I'm not going to mention, but the dialogue in this one was a legitimate conversation. We were all in a call, and when they were talking, we were able to type in the chat and go ahead and ask them questions, and they would stop what they're doing, go ahead and read the question, and then go ahead and elaborate. There was really no secrecy. There was nothing, you know, no crazy conspiracies, nothing, you know, that they didn't want to talk about, unless it's like something like, oh, what is Warzone 2 going to be about? What is it? You know, like they can't get into specifics like that. But in terms of bugs, issues, and stuff like that, they were completely transparent, which was honestly incredibly refreshing. I, you know, gained a new respect for the devs and everything that they do, because just talking to them for that little bit of time, you could tell how passionate they are about their craft, about their game, about the community, about everything. And you could tell that there is just a lot to do. It simply is that there's 3 games merged into one, and it's, you know, has its, you know, problems, and it presents its own sets of issues that really nobody has experienced or had to experience in the past. And obviously, amidst everything going on in the world, it's very tough for them to kind of, you know, work together because everything is remote and online. But overall, it was an absolute blast, completely refreshing, really got me kind of my flame reignited for Warzone, because I can see, you know, not only do I love the game, but the people that are making it really do love it, and they really are giving it their all, despite, you know, the shortcomings thus far. But I am very hopeful for the future of Warzone and for the future of Warzone 2. And I've gained a newfound respect for the developers and everybody on the team over there in any capacity, because it is definitely high stress, definitely a lot going on, and you essentially have the whole world kind of yelling at you if something goes wrong, but also praising you if something goes right. But overall, I want to give a big shout out to Call of Duty. Thank you guys for having me. It was incredibly insightful, and I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to going ahead and being a part of these in the future. If you guys have any questions, I can go ahead and try to answer them down below. If you guys have any questions for me that I maybe didn't cover, I can go ahead, and if I can remember, I can go ahead and try to answer some down below if I'm allowed to talk about it. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to drop a like. Hope you enjoyed the gameplay in the background as well. Subscribe if you guys are brand new around here. Without further ado, guys, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day.